everybody. Mark from Maple Capital Partners here, and today we have a very special guest. We have the pleasure of speaking with someone whose entrepreneurial journey has taken some really fascinating twists and turns, from being a professional poker player in Las Vegas to eventually shifting focus to real estate investing and building a diverse portfolio across the country and even internationally. Rick Baldaramos is here with us, and he has a wealth of experience and insights to share. And along the way, he's not only navigated the highs and lows of the business world, but he's also helped countless others achieve financial freedom through coaching and community involvement. In today's conversation, we're going to dive into his story, his journey, the challenges he's faced, and the principles that have helped him build a life of wealth and abundance. So Rick, welcome to our video here.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. So maybe if we could start from the beginning, you had a fascinating career journey, and that began in the world of professional poker, as I understand it. What initially drew you to poker, and how did the skills that you developed in that game shape your later ventures in business?
I was obsessed with money from an early age. And I always wanted to try to conquer the financial world. I had a plan that if I had a certain amount of money and I invested it, I could have income for life without having to work. So I got to work fairly early. I actually started when I was 7 years old making rubber band guns. So I would sell rubber band guns with a clip on the top that would shoot the rubber band guns for 45 cents and one that didn't have that for 40 cents. And then a year later, I started mowing lawns and cleaning gutters. And then by the time I was 10, I started my third business, creating macrame plant hangers and wall hangings. I did that for a couple of years. I actually went through a lot of trade shows and things like that. And then after that, I went to work for other people. I had 4 paper routes and worked full-time at a car wash while I was in high school. And at the car wash, there was 10 different car washes, and I was made the sales trainer to travel to the other 10 car washes and teach everybody how to sell. Because my friend and I growing up would always compete at everything, and I would win at everything that was physical, and he would win at everything that was sales. So he and I worked at the car wash, and I was always the second best salesman until he left. And then at that point, I got the new title of sales manager. And then when after high school, I moved to Texas and started working at a detail shop in Texas called Tidy Car, and stayed there for about 6 months, realized I didn't like Texas, and then moved back to California and went to work at an arcade where a friend of mine bought me a book on how to play blackjack. And I love math, so I just devoured that book and started training myself and learning how to play. And I started playing blackjack soon after that. While it didn't go all that well initially, it inevitably went quite well, and I did that as long as they allowed me to. So while I was playing blackjack, I started another business detailing cars. And that was fairly short-lived because it was a lot of work and didn't really enjoy that as much. The following year, I started another business painting curb numbers. And my blackjack career was kind of winding down, and I didn't know what was next. But while I was playing blackjack, I was learning poker and started playing poker. And when I started the curb painting business, myself and 2 friends of mine, and the first day we went out and passed out the flyers. The next day we painted the curbs, and then we went around and collected the money. And on day 3, the first person quit, and on day 5, the second person quit, and it was just me. And by the 10th day, I started hiring staff and replacing the jobs that I was doing. And by the end of the first month, I had a staff of 5. By the end of the second month, I had a staff of 10. And my job became on Monday is to give them their paychecks, give them their maps, give them their supplies, send them off to go do the job, drive down to Los Angeles and play poker all week, drive back up, collect all the money, process payroll, get all the supplies ready, get all the maps ready, give them all their supplies, and then drive back down to LA and play poker. And I did this for 3 years and then realized, hey, you know what? I'm doing pretty well at poker. So I gave up a business that was making about $10,000 a month when I was 23 years old to just play poker. And then in 1998, I was in Palm Springs at an Indian casino, and they had blackjack there, but the casinos were not allowed to bank the blackjack. So they had one of the players at the table had to act as the banker. So with my blackjack knowledge, I felt like it was just a perfect fit. So I started banking the blackjack games. And initially, I think my ego got in the way because I would count down the shoe, and when the deck got favorable to me, I would actually pass the shoe, let somebody else bank, and then start betting against them. And then at one point, I realized, I probably have a 0.5% advantage at best, and they're a 2.5% disadvantage just from the way they play. And I stopped playing, and I just sat there and banked the games. And that led me into banking games for card rooms in Northern California. My dad passed away in 2000, actually in 1994, I believe. So I moved up to Northern California to take care of my mom, and then started banking blackjack games at card rooms soon after California legalized them to do it. And in a few years, I had 98 people working for me, and we were contracted with 10 different card rooms banking their games. So that was a business that I invested $2,000 into, and it was making me about $6.5 million a year. So then it was learning how not to pay all the tax, because I was making a bundle and I was writing big checks to the government to pay tax. So now it's okay, how do I not do this? So that was the start of me learning tax strategies of how not to get creamed by the tax man. So I bought a car wash. It was a full full-service car wash in 2005 and learned about depreciation. And it's, oh, this helps. And then in 2007, I signed a deal with a company called Poker Tech, which had an automated version of a poker table. And I had an exclusive contract to provide tables to Montana, Oregon, and Texas. So I put a bill in the House in 2007 to legalize Texas Hold'em, but only on automated tables. And in Texas, the legislature only works from January to May. So we missed getting our bill in. We had it through the House, but we didn't have time to get it through the Senate. So then we had to come back in 2009 and do it again. And in 2007, one of my lobby team was the personal assistant to the governor, Rick Perry. And he went to Rick Perry and said, hey, we have this bill. If we get this bill passed, will you let it go? And he goes, if you got to pass the House and Senate, of course I'll let it go. And it's like, okay. So in 2009, we actually had the bill pass the Senate. We had a verbal pass the House, and the same person went back to Rick Perry and asked him, just confirm that he wouldn't veto the bill. And he had a change of heart, and he said, oh no, he says, I want to run for president of the United States. I can't be known as the governor who allowed gambling in Texas. So that was a waste of about $1 million trying to get that bill passed. And that was one of the losses in life. And in 2009, I was in the Bay Area and saw real estate prices just plummet. So I had a friend of mine who'd always been trying to get me into real estate, but it never made sense to me. And on the last attempt, he dragged me out to Vallejo, which is about 13 miles from San Francisco. And the real estate prices in San Francisco went down about 20%. In Marin County, they went down about 25%. In Napa County, they went down 25 or 30%. And in Solano County, they went down 70%. And it's, how do I buy every house I can get my hands on? Because I knew that they would bounce back, and they made total sense. So I spent about 3 years making offers, buying as many houses as I possibly could with a fairly unique strategy. And then in 2010, I started my most successful business, and that was Choice Energy. We sold electricity in the deregulated markets in the Northeast. So we were based out of New Jersey, and we actually started the company in Iowa, but it was ran out of New Jersey. And we worked in Maine and New Jersey and Ohio and Pennsylvania. I think we were in 11 states and a bunch of different markets. But that was the fastest growing company in Iowa for 4 straight years. We went from making $130,000 in the first year to making $20 million a year by year 4. So that's kind of the snapshot of the different businesses that I can remember.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing those. There are a lot of different industries that are represented there. I had some knowledge of some of the different experiences you had, but it's interesting to hear, even from a young boy, it seems like you were involved with entrepreneurship and always had that bug where you see a problem or you see an opportunity and you were the one to solve that problem, which I think is key and integral to any entrepreneur.
And that's it, right? Who gets paid the most? And the person that gets paid the most is the one that solves the biggest problems. So it's, if I can go solve a problem that others can't solve, it's usually worth quite a bit of money. So it's okay. I mean, obviously making rubber band guns wasn't going to get me to buy a private island, but it would let me stay busy and understand, just the process of a business.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And then another kind of lesson that I picked up from your story, hearing your story, was you faced a number of different adversities throughout your journey, whether it was the partners backing out from your curb painting business, the failure of the bill that you were pushing for, switching from blackjack to poker because you saw that it maybe wasn't as profitable as it once was, or the risk reward was not in your favor. And from those experiences, from those, I won't call them failures because I think you learn from each of those. And I prefer not to think of things that way in those terms. It's really all feedback in my opinion. So what did you, I guess, learn about, or how did you approach those instances where you faced a lot of adversity and continue to keep going, or decide to learn from that and shift gears into a different industry? How would you, I guess, advise other entrepreneurs when they run into obstacles that are similar to those?
Well, blackjack, I didn't quit blackjack. They barred me. So I got stopped at virtually every casino in Las Vegas, Lake Tahoe, and Reno. So it's, if I had to make a list, there was one casino that I could still play at that I got barred at last year. Now I just realized, I don't do that anymore. So I had to move on. So poker was the next easiest thing in a casino that I knew you could beat. And the only 3 things that I know you can beat is blackjack, poker, and sports. So I was involved in all 3 of those. So as far as entrepreneurs go, it seems that the difference is that entrepreneurs focus on the solutions and non-problem solvers focus on the problems. And then they talk about the problems, they share the problems, they get sympathy from others that sympathize with their problems, and it's a bonding experience. But in my mind, it defies logic because nothing good happens from that. That doesn't solve the problem. We don't get to a solution. We just get to, okay, now the other person gets to share their problems. And it's, okay. And it's the study of humans is really an interesting one just because it's a lot of our actions defy logic. If this is our goal and this is my action, that action will never lead you to that goal. So.
Yeah, I get accused sometimes of being too optimistic or too Pollyanna or whatever you want to say, but I think that any entrepreneur just inherently is an optimist because they see not what exists in the world, but what could exist in the world. And as you look around, I know I had heard a quote once that anything you look around and you see was built by somebody else who was the similar situation as you. Maybe they had even less resources than you have. So I think that's one really key mindset for people is as you are moving forward in your business journey is being adaptable, but also seeing these problems that they face as opportunities, maybe potentially for new businesses. So with that in mind, one of the things that we had spoken about in the past, you and I in conversations, was about the ability to sell products and services. And did I understand that you have a pretty unique sales strategy? What can you tell me about that?
I was trying to hook up something to the computer where I could draw a diagram, but it failed. So I had somebody come and give me a sales training class. And I had the greatest sales training experience ever because I grew up with a natural born salesman. And he and I sold candles in 6th grade to go to camp. And if you sold 10 candles, you got $6 off camp. If you sold 14 candles, you got $10 off camp. And if you sold 18 candles, the camp was free. So I sold 353 candles and he sold 460. And it was just the competition between us where I wanted to beat him, but I never did. So I got an inside sales training with him. But along the way, somebody came up and taught me everything I needed to know in sales in a 2-minute example. And that 2-minute example looks like a clock where this finger is 12 o'clock, this finger is 3 o'clock, down here is 6 o'clock, and over here is 9 o'clock. And at 12 o'clock is the lion, and the lion is the decision maker. And the lion is, go that, do this, flip that house, buy this condo, I want those shoes, I'll have this burger, this thing. They're the decision makers. And if you're going to sell to a lion, all you have to do is create more value than price, and they buy immediately. If you tell me you drive a 2022 Mercedes and say, hey, I really need $1,000, I'll sell you this car for $1,000. A lion's going to go, let me get my checkbook, or I have it right here, here's $1,000, I'll buy your car. And they're an instant decision maker. At 3 o'clock, we have the chimp. And the chimp is all about the adventure and the party and the instance and what's going to happen and who's coming and what should I wear and should I wear this dress or these shoes or should I drive this car? And it's all about the experience. And if you offer $1,000, well, who owned the car? What color is the car? What's in the car? And they want to know more about it. And it's, well, if we buy this car, we can take the car to this party and we can go see this person. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, let's buy the car because I want to see that person. And it has very little to do with the deal from the car. It has everything to do with the adventure of getting to where the car will take us so that we can fit into that group of people and see those folks. At 6 o'clock is the turtle, and the turtle is our non-decision maker, and the turtle will not make a decision without help. So the turtle will say, well, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, well, what is the lion doing? Well, what is the chimp doing? Well, okay, well, if they're doing it, I'll do it. And a lot of our trades won't do one-legged leads. So if you need an air conditioner and they call you up and say, hey, we'll send a sales rep out to you, they will only come if both parties are there, and I don't think they know why. But the reason that they won't come is because if one of those people is a turtle and they show up and it's only the turtle, they cannot sell the turtle because the turtle will not make a decision. It's not in their DNA. They have to have their partner to make that decision. And then at 9 o'clock, we have our giraffe, and the giraffe is details, details, details. Okay, so you got a Mercedes. All right, what color is it? How many miles are on it? What's the gas mileage? What's the tire pressure in the tires? How old are the tires? How new is the paint? And they'll just kill you with questions. And it's to sell to a giraffe, you have to have answers to all these questions. So it's when you're preparing any kind of company that you're going to sell items for, you need to be prepared for all 4 sales types. Really, the 3 sales types, because you're not going to sell the turtle. But you have to create an experience for the chimp. You have to give more value than price for the lion, and you have to have all the answers for the giraffe. If you start giving details to a lion, if you're trying to sell to a giraffe, if you do that same strategy to a lion, he's going to be driven crazy. He's getting in the car, he's leaving. So it doesn't matter what it is because he doesn't want to hear the details. He's not a detailed person. And the interesting part of it is nobody likes the person next to them. So a lion will partner up with a turtle. A chimp will partner up with a giraffe. But a lion is driven crazy by a chimp and a giraffe because they don't want to go to all the events and they certainly don't want to hear about all the details. But the beauty of it is as you build an organization, and let's assume that you're a lion. If you're a lion and you're building a company, what do you need? You need them all. You need the lion to run the company. You need the chimp as your sales team. You need the turtle to sweep the floors and do all the regular stuff. And you need the giraffe as your compliance to make sure that you're following the laws. So most people hire what they like, not what they need. So it's when we're running an organization, you have to realize that, okay, I'm gonna hire this giraffe, but I only want to see him an hour a week. Don't torture me with any more than that because we'll get in, we'll answer the first 10 questions they have, and then we'll just wander off because I don't have that kind of time to cater to him. So that's the sales thing that was tremendously eye-opening for me just because it's, okay, I need to hire you. Even though I don't like you, I respect you, and because you do a job that is necessary that I hate doing, and this organization needs it. And one of my sayings is if it's not your joy, it's not your job. If I don't like compliance with governmental agencies, let me go find a nice giraffe and let them handle it.
Yeah, now as you go through those examples of those kind of archetypes of different people you're selling to, I'm thinking to some partnerships that I've had and partnerships that I've been aware of in the past, and I can definitely see how different people fit into each of those molds and how one group may not get along with another and so on and so forth. So that's really really interesting that you were able to understand that from a young age. It seems like those interactions between different types of people, and then how to approach different of those groups of people with sales. Because like you said, approaching the giraffe in the same way that you approach the lion is not going to work. And so knowing who your audience is really important, I think, with sales.
Yeah, and as an organization, you have to be prepared for all of them, right? You have to know how to sell the person based on their personality, not yours. That's a critical component to sales.
Absolutely. Well, that's a ton of gems there. In terms of shifting from sales to real estate, as you mentioned, towards the, I guess, more recent part of your story, of your journey, real estate became a focus on that journey. And I was just curious, what was the turning point that made you decide to invest in real estate? Was it something related to the tax benefits that you mentioned, or what kind of made that decision for you?
It was opportunity, because it was the first house I bought. I was living in Las Vegas, and I bought a house there, and it was 11.5% interest rate. And when I finally left Las Vegas to go to Palm Springs, I was stuck in the house. It was a down market. Nobody was buying real estate. So I actually gave it to my realtor just so that I could stop making the payments. The second house that I owned was in 2010, and the car wash was struggling, and my other business was struggling, and I was either going to lose the car wash or the house. So I lost my second house in foreclosure. So in 2010, I lost that house. So in 2009, my friend invited me out to Vallejo, and my credit was already bad because I wasn't making payments on the house. So I got out there, and he was always the guy that goes, "Oh, just buy the house. They go up in value. You do an equity line of credit. You go buy another house." And he was building a nice little house of cards. And I didn't know it at the time, but he brought me out. And I'd heard the spiel so many times that I didn't really want to hear it again, but he brought me out to Vallejo, and he drove me to this house, and it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house on it. And he told me that the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house would rent for $1,200, and the 2-1 would rent for $1,000. And it would cost about $20,000 to redo the kitchens and get everything ready to be rented. And it's okay, and I'm just half listening because I've been down this path again. And he goes, "The list price is $58,000. Come again? Okay, I mean, $2,200 a month, and I'd have about $80,000 into it. I'd have this house completely paid off in less than 40 months. So it's, okay, now this makes sense. So I made up my own rules. I said I will pay 80 times monthly rent for any property. So if it rents for $1,000, my total all-in cost would be $80,000 would be my maximum amount to pay. So including reno, including closing costs both in and out. And I didn't have any credit, so I couldn't afford to buy these houses. So I came up with my own way where it's, if I buy this house, let's say I bought this one house for $58,000 and I put the $22,000 into it and I'm in it for $80,000. Dodd-Frank wouldn't let you sell a property for a profit within the first 90 days. So on the 90th day, I sold it to my best friend, and I sold it to him for $120,000. So he was A paper, on the job, 6-figure earner, could qualify no problem. So he could certainly buy the house. Plus he had the season 20% down. So he had $24,000 season. So he qualifies to buy the house. Well, at the sale, I make $40,000. When he gets out of it, he gets financing on the house. We get the monthly payment. I write him a check for $24,000 and buy half the house. So now he has $0 invested in this house. I have $16,000 in my account, more than I had before we started, and he and I own half a house. So I would find end users, is what I call them, but I would find as many partners as I wanted because I wanted to buy 60 properties. Because it was 60 properties was the amount that I thought would make the most amount of sense. And in the next 2 to 3 years, I made about 3,000 offers on real estate. And it was interesting. I mean, I turned down a house for $17,000 that probably had $5,000 or $10,000 worth of reno that needed to be done. I canceled the contract on 19 units that the sales price was $490,000. And it was an interesting time. I mean, I was still running the banking of the blackjack games. I was involved in lobbying in Texas. I was running the car wash, and I was spending all my time doing this because this was fun. This was the art of the deal, the chase. I made deals with 2 realtors to get me the listing before anybody else got them. And if I was sitting at my computer, I would make an offer on that house within 3 minutes because I would just plow through it, get an estimate of what I thought it would cost, and then you could always negotiate after the contract was after you were in contract. If they had a fish on the hook, they generally were more willing to negotiate with you. So I'd say I bought as many houses as I possibly could. I partnered with a bunch of my friends. I made a couple of my friends millionaires. That was pretty fun. All those houses have been sold. I sold the last one last December. I bought a triplex for $143 and we sold it for $710, and that was the last one.
So yeah, I mean, that's another really, really interesting business that you've been involved with. It seems like the one theme that's emerging is your adaptability. And you've been involved with a number of different industries. I know that there are some people out there, some entrepreneurs that say, don't get shiny object syndrome. Stick to what you know, stick to your own, cooking, so to speak, areas that you're comfortable with. But if anything, it seems like in your story, you've seen opportunities and you've had the self-belief to be able to try to take advantage of or capitalize on those opportunities and follow your inspiration, it seems like. So just curious, like what your thoughts on that type of advice that a lot of entrepreneurs get of like staying in your lane and not, shifting from one type of industry to another.
Well, that's probably quite sound advice because if you do that, there's less chance of failure. But if you don't do that, how do you learn? So it's because I had somewhat of a unique situation where I owned and operated the banking business that made as much as it did. did, I didn't care if I lost it. I wanted to learn. So the car wash was a huge loser. I paid $4 million for it. 8 years later, sold it for $3.2 million, and then learned about depreciation recapture because I lost $800,000 and then owed taxes when it closed. And how does that work? So now I understand that quite well. That was the learning that came with it. I actually I taught people health and nutrition in 2015. So to wander off the already abstract path, that goes into one that's just far into left field. But all businesses are the same. All businesses are just understanding what you need to do to succeed, how hard you're willing to try to do it, and then having the capital behind you to make sure that you get to the finish line. 90% of new businesses fail in the first 5 years. There's very few people that are capable of running a business because they think that it's going to be easier than a job. And it's not. It can be at some point in time, but the first year or two aren't those times. It's down the line before it gets to good. So when you see those successful restaurateurs, you didn't walk in their shoes and you didn't see, they might have failed at 3 or 4 restaurants before that one opened. And now, they're living in a nice house, driving a nice car, and everybody wants to be them. But they wouldn't have wanted to be them when the things went wrong and there was kitchen fires and chefs throwing knives at them and all the other stuff that can happen with employees. I estimate I've had about 3,000 employees in my life. So it was a learning experience for me because I wasn't a people person and I wasn't good at that. And it's during that period of time I was reading books on how to learn how to be a better manager. Because ultimately, in any business I get in, I replace myself. So if I'm painting the curbs, I find somebody to replace to take me out. If I'm passing out the flyers, find somebody to take me out. But I always like to learn the business first and then just put the right person in place to do the right job and then understand the employee mindset, because it's the same kind of thing. Every employee needs something different. You can't just give them bonuses or raises or anything else. Some employees need words of kindness or encouragement. Some need a parking spot. Some need a bonus. Some need a raise. Some need healthcare. Some need a hug. And it's understanding what that person needs allows you to become the best boss that you can possibly be for that situation. I guess I got lucky because I played poker for 9 years. So reading people, I got a lot of experience of trying to read people. And I feel fairly comfortable at this point in my life of understanding who's who and what they need, even though a lot of times they don't know what they need.
Well, you touch on a good theme there that'll help us transition to the next little area, which is really psychology, the psychology of a business owner or psychology of an employee or entrepreneur for that matter. And something that's really has a lot of psychology to it is finances and building wealth. It's not just, dollars and cents. And I know that you have a passion for imparting your wisdom for financial literacy on others and helping them overcome or understand some of the psychology that goes along with money. So what are some of the core principles or philosophies that have guided your wealth building in your journey, either in poker, real estate, or just in general?
There's four major components to the scorecard of a business. There's a balance sheet, there's a profit and loss, there's a cash flow statement, and then there's a business plan. And any good business should use this as the scorecard because it allows you to see where you are compared to where you want to go. And my belief is that the human being was not designed to be good at business. The human being was not designed to be wealthy. The human being was not designed to go do this. If you don't learn what you need to learn, you're not getting there. So if you don't know what it is you're trying to achieve, you will likely succeed at not getting there. So it's in a business. I've seen lots and lots of businesses. I never had a business plan. Choice Energy was the energy company. That was the first business that I had a business plan for. We started that in 2010. We had a business plan. We're going to do this. This is what we need to do to achieve it. And there's something psychological about us where it's if we set a goal for ourselves, our little monkey minds want to achieve that goal. So it's very much like shooting a bow and an arrow, right? When you shoot a bow and an arrow, are you looking at where your hand's holding the arrow? Or are you looking at the other hand where the guide is, where it's guiding the arrow? Or are you looking at the target and your brain just somehow gets the arrow to shoot the target? I mean, that's almost a minor miracle that we can get that arrow to go there without looking at it. Or shooting a basketball, right? We look at the basket and somehow our brain adjusts everything to try to get that basketball into that hole. Business is the same thing. If you know what it is you're trying to achieve, your brain will try to take you there. It's the folks that don't have a plan, that don't have a vision, that don't have a dream, that usually don't get there. It doesn't happen for them. So I learned how to be a visual person. So if I have a business and I'm selling those Mercedes, and those Mercedes are $20,000 each, I actually do a visual where I see a blue Mercedes getting sold to a 40-year-old woman, and I see $20,000 going into my bank account, and I see the balance change. And it's uncanny how often you're right. So I would encourage people to visualize as much as possible, see success as much as you possibly can, and use the 4 scorecard things to see how it is you are trending. Because your business plan says, okay, by the end of year 1, we're going to make $500,000 a year gross. And every month you look at your P&L and you see, okay, well, geez, it's November. We're at 380. How do we make another $120,000 to hit our goal? And it motivates you. It makes you think success, and it motivates you to want to go out and do what it is you want to try to do. Now, business is an interesting one. I always go back to 600 years ago, where there was 85 people living by a water supply somewhere, and the men probably went out and hunted animals, and the women probably picked food and watched the children. In my view of that group, there was one person that was the chief or the leader, and 84 people that weren't. And that one person was likely a born leader. And if we look at America now, 1 out of 85 people was born to be an entrepreneur, something in that realm. 1 out of 10 people is an entrepreneur, but 90% of those businesses fail. But in that tribe, if you think about it, if 1 out of those 85 people was born to be an entrepreneur and something happens to that leader, they get shot or an animal gets them, somebody else will develop the skills to be that leader. So if you weren't born to be an entrepreneur, you certainly have the human ability to develop what is necessary to become one by understanding how to go about it, finding a mentor that'll help you, those types of things. And we do more for others than we do for ourselves. So that's why coaching works so well. If I can hire you as a coach, I tell you exactly what I want to do and you hold me accountable, I have a better chance of doing it for you than I do for myself. And it's unfortunate, but it's functional if I want to get there. I mean, Tony Robbins has 4 coaches. So we all need them, and apparently forever.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of points there. The power of goal setting, of having a business plan as you enter into businesses, the power of the mind, just having this written down, and the fact that you're able to attract a lot of these things into your life. I mean, we're recording this on December 28th, so I'm going through my annual process of resetting a lot of my goals and looking back on the prior year and planning for the coming year, and not just that year, but looking 5-10 years into the future about who I want to become in the process. So all this stuff is really speaking to my soul right now. Yeah, and then you discussed a little bit about entrepreneurs and kind of the role of entrepreneurs really as leaders in today's world, where sometimes success is vilified today, or taking risks and delayed gratification and thinking long term. A lot of those things aren't as glamorous or as sexy as going on to Instagram or going onto social media and seeing these people living amazing lives, things like that. But that's the journey of an entrepreneur. A lot of these things happen over time, and the way that it gets done is what you're talking about, is having those goalposts in mind, surrounding yourself with people who are doing it that you can learn from, hiring a coach, hiring a mentor, or maybe just finding a way to add value to a coach. I know early on for me, I didn't necessarily have the financial wherewithal to be able to pay for a coach, so I decided to see how I could be of service or be of value to somebody that I wanted to learn from. So there's really no excuse not to pursue whatever kind of entrepreneurial journey you're on, or pursue whatever kind of goal you've got for yourself. I think it's just, today you have more resources at your fingertips than I think we had to launch a space shuttle to the moon. Which is pretty amazing, especially with the likes of ChatGPT and all the technology that we have as individuals to be able to learn and leverage ourselves and leverage our time. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there in what you just said, Rick, but I'll transition on to the next little area that we wanted to cover, which was coaching others. Kind of, you touched upon this a little bit, but you coach others today on financial literacy and helping them achieve financial freedom. And we're just curious what you see as the most common financial mistakes that investors make today or entrepreneurs make today, and how can our audience avoid those?
Being a human being is the biggest mistake we make, because the human design is to live in the moment. If we go back those 600 years, what was important? What was important is to eat, to sleep, to reproduce, and to protect ourselves. And when we weren't doing one of those 4 things, the last one was have fun, right? To dance, to sing, to do whatever it is. But that is the human design. We didn't know what the weather was going to be tomorrow. We didn't know anything. We couldn't control our temperature. We had to adapt to our temperature. We were a very reactive creature. We are a reactive creature by design. So it's to be successful financially is to defy our human foundation and do something that's unnatural by thinking and planning for the future. I've coached a lot of entrepreneurs, and they all do the same thing. They make more, they spend more. They make more, they spend more. And it's how do you follow a process to not do that? And what I coach is to run you like the most important business in your life, and for you to create an income stream that you decide before you go out and make the money. So let's say that you want to live on $5,000 a month. I like banking strategies, and one of the things is what runs a business? A system runs a business. Who has the best system? Who has the best business? The person who has the best system. I've had far better hamburgers than McDonald's. McDonald's might have sold more hamburgers than everybody else in the world combined, because they have the best system. When they first came out, they could get you your meal inside 1 minute and for a completely reasonable price. They came up with an incredible business model. So it's, how can I have a systematic approach to my wealth business, my number one most important business? Are the businesses that I am involved in alignment with my personal wealth business? Let's say that I want to make $1 million a month. I have a simple math formula that we could get into, but you need 150 times whatever your goal is. So if I want $1 million a month, I need $150 million invested, earning 8% to achieve my goal. Now let's go back and say, okay, well, I'm going to paint curve numbers, right? I'm going to go out and paint curve numbers. When I painted curve numbers, I made $10,000 a month. How long is it going to take me to make $150 million? I'm not getting there. So it's, if I define what it is I'm trying to achieve personally, get involved in businesses that will allow me to achieve my goal personally, I can have the life that I want. So it's a 2-step process where goal A is replace your present income. So if you're making $5,000 a month, go out and find a way to get $5,000 a month in passive income. And then the second step is define your life. Define what it is you want for your perfect life. Do you want a plane? Do you want a helicopter? Do you want a private island? Do you want more than one home? Do you want 4 homes? goals. What life do you want? And once you come up with what life you want, now put a cost to it on a monthly basis. And then once you've defined your life, you come up with a new number. Let's say it's $80,000 a month. Multiply that times 150. We get to $12 million, and you realize, hey, if I can get $12 million invested in an 88%, I can have $80,000 a month of income for the rest of my life, my children's life, forever. So it's figuring out what it is you want first. Use the four. We don't use all four because we still have a balance sheet, because a balance sheet shows us what's on it, right? What our net worth is. The second one is a P&L. A P&L is really for taxes. We don't need a P&L from our personal standpoint. The third one's a cash flow statement, or a statement of cash flows according to QuickBooks. But we want to know what our income is so that we can compare it to what our goal is. And then the last one is we want a business plan. We want to know how much passive income in after-tax dollars we have every month going forward so that we can see, are we achieving our goals? How close are we? And I've got it to the point now where on my balance sheet, there's three components to my balance sheet. One is investable assets, one is personal assets, and one is retirement assets. And it's, if I'm less than 59 and a half, there's three components. If I'm more than 59 and a half, my retirement assets actually jump into the category of investable assets, and now there's only two. So if I have a $12 million net worth and I have an $80,000 a month goal going, I should be able to achieve my goal. But if I look at my balance sheet and I have a $9.5 million art collection and a $1 million motorcycle collection, that's $10.5 million of assets that are not earning for me. I only have $1.5 million of investable assets to try to create $80,000 a month of income. That's highly unlikely that that's going to happen. It's understanding our wealth business first and getting into things that are going to allow us to succeed is the strategy. So it's, if I have a goal of $5,000 a month and I have zero now, well, $5,000 a month is $750,000 invested, and I go start any business. Let's say I start that curb painting business and I got $10,000 a month coming in. If I can live on $5,000 a month and save that extra $5,000 a month, it's going to take me 150 months to succeed. That's 12 and a half years. Am I okay with that? If the answer is yes, that's the plan. If the answer is no, I need to do something different. I need to double the size of the business, triple the size of the business, really figure it out so that I can calculate a business plan on that business that's going to let me achieve my personal wealth business goals in a shorter amount of time. So that's it in a nutshell. I advise a banking strategy where all of your income goes into one bank account. And on the first of the month, you move the amount that you're allowing yourself to spend to the second account. So if it's $5,000 a month, you move $5,000 a month down into your budget account, and that's what you get to live on. And I don't necessarily try to live on a budget on a monthly basis, but I absolutely try to live on a budget on an annual basis. So it's, I know in December that I'm 1,000 over budget, 1,000 under budget, or whatever, and I know where I'm at, and I'm going to have to try to stick to my budget, because my $5,000, I get a raise on January 1st. I get a 3% raise. So next year I'm going to get $5,150 a month for the next 12 months, and then I get another 3% raise. If I hit the lottery for $10 million, I still get $5,150 each month for the next 12 months until I get to my end goal of whatever that is. If my end goal is $80,000 a month and I need $12 million invested, that money needs to be invested. I need to figure out how to get an 8% return and get that return to me. So there's three types of investors. If your goal is $5,000 a month and you have $750,000 in investable assets, you're an income investor. You need to find deals that are creating 8% returns. If you don't have $750,000, you're an equity investor. Go find a property, sell it to a friend, get your money out, go find another property. You'll build equity in those homes over time with very little invested. And the third one is if you're in a tax bracket higher than 24%, you're a tax strategy investor. There's investments in oil and gas and Bitcoin mining and things like that can give you 70, 80, 100% depreciation, where that can all come off your taxes. So if you're investing $100,000 and you're in a 32% tax bracket federally, an 8% tax bracket state, you're really only putting $60,000 into that investment, but you have $100,000 working for you. Knowing what kind of investor you are also prevents you from having to go into a value add. If you have all your money and you come to me with a value add that says, hey, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and then we'll cash out in 3 years. Well, that doesn't feed me. I can't do that investment because I need the income. So it's, even if you say it's a 5x exit, well, I'd love to be there. I don't want to have to work for 3 more years waiting for you. So I'm better off putting it into something that's going to pay me 8%, where I can go live my life now. It's kind of a different concept than I've seen from anything else, but it's, I wish I would have used this far earlier, because I was that guy that was make more, spend more.
The hedonic treadmill, I think, is what I've heard that called. Yeah, I think that's our natural human tendency. You said this earlier as we were talking. We weren't meant to think long-term as human beings. We were meant to, you bring in 10, you spend 10. You're going to enjoy, the fruits of your labor immediately, as opposed to, let me defer some of this gratification. I think a lot of what you talked about there is really a game plan for anybody who's having troubles, not where they want to be financially, is starting with the end in mind. What kind of lifestyle do you want to create for yourself? Coming up with a budget for that lifestyle. lifestyle? What does it cost to do these things that I want to do? And then what is it going to take for you to get there? So Rick used the example, if you know that you can earn 8% on your investments, okay, back into what kind of nest egg you need to be able to achieve that cash flow coming in per month. And then, answering those questions will tell you what kind of investor you have to be or what types of investments you should be open to. So I think that's, really gold for anybody who's, again, not where you want to be. I would listen back to the last 10 minutes or so of what Rick filled out there, because that's really a roadmap for getting what you want to, where you want to be financially speaking. And, unfortunately, as with a lot of things in life, the answer is boring, and it takes a long time, and it takes diligent, consistent effort. But I'm a believer, because I've seen it in my own life, of having that goal in mind, measuring how you're doing in the progress of that goal, because there's nothing like the satisfaction or the enjoyment that you get out of seeing yourself get closer to your goals. And some of these goals are very quantifiable, so it's very easy to see your progress. And seeing yourself, it almost becomes like a game as you start to play this every month. How much can I save? How much can I invest? Okay, now how much passive income am I bringing in versus what my goal is, or what I'm spending today, or what my goal is to be spending to live my ideal life. And again, seeing that progress, it's going to become very, very addictive. And I know a lot of people in my network that have achieved massive amounts of wealth just by following this plan. So it definitely works over time. So appreciate you sharing that, Rick. I think that brings us towards the end of our time with you. Definitely want to be respectful of your time, and wanted to say, first off, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your insights with us today. Your career in business has spanned a lot of different industries, multiple market cycles. So the principles of what you've learned along the way, it's definitely going to serve a lot of people in the audience who listen to this recording. So really appreciate that.
The last thing I would like to say is the curse of cash. Because the curse of cash is there's three components of our subconscious brain that derail us: acceptance, pain, and pleasure. And cash gives us all three. So the motivation to have cash will get us out of pain, will bring us pleasure, or will get us acceptance, because we can go buy that shiny new gold Mercedes from you and pacify that need to fit in. And that's the one thing that we have to be aware of is that we have to learn the behaviors that is going to get us to where we want to be. But yeah, thank you for taking the time with me.
Absolutely. There's a ton here. I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future because I know that this is just scratching the surface of all the knowledge that you've got and all the wisdom. So yeah, really appreciate it. For anybody that wants to get in touch with you, Rick, wants to learn more about some of the financial strategies that you've used to amass wealth, how would they reach you?
Email me, rickbaldy@gmail, RICKBALDY.
Amazing. Again, thank you for being so gracious with your time, and we'll speak soon.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.